Hey, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Oh Really Podcast, a podcast where we talk about those vulnerable, challenging, and spicy taboo topics of the world that leaves everyone sitting there and wondering, oh, really? Because they want to know more. Now, you've clicked on this episode because you want to know more about alopecia, or maybe you've got a friend or a colleague or someone that you know that's been diagnosed with it. But either way, welcome. You're going to learn so much and you're going to feel so inspired after this episode. Now, I got to interview a really close friend of mine named Nikita. We met years ago and we're actually going through a pretty vulnerable time in our lives when we met, and it just created this intense friendship. Honestly, she is one of my closest friends to this day, and I fucking love this woman. So I am so lucky and so grateful that she came on the podcast today to talk about such a vulnerable topic. Now, Nikita got diagnosed alopecia in her early teens, and she runs through the whole journey of going through her teens, her 20s, and now in her 30s of having alopecia and just navigating, traveling, dating, and just, overall confidence in herself with this diagnosis. So I'm not going to bang on too much because the episode will speak for itself. You're going to love it, and make sure to give us a 5-star review if you're keen. And if you've got any messages after the podcast, please feel free to reach out to me anytime. Enjoy, everybody. Welcome to Oh Really Podcast, Nikita.
Thank you so much for having me.
I'm so stoked to be talking about a pretty vulnerable topic today. And I actually just remembered that when we met, we were both doing travel nursing. You were doing a travel midwifery contract in rural New South Wales. And we met online, technically. It was kind of like an online date because we met through a Facebook group. And we went out for dinner. So it was like this random little meet up with a stranger. And we had a bottle of wine and just poured out all our vulnerabilities to each other on that very first meeting. Do you remember?
Yes. Oh my gosh. Giuseppe's. It was the best pasta, the best blue cheese gnocchi, the best wine, the best chats. It was so good.
It was honestly the best night ever. And I had never had gnocchi gorgonzola because I was a bit funny with the blue cheese thing, but you opened my world to some incredible food, gal. Woo!
Yeah, it was definitely a way to make a friendship over some good food and some good wine, that's for sure.
Yeah. And then one of the topics that we spoke about, I actually opened up to you about something that had just recently happened to me. And that was when I got diagnosed with HSV2. And I was, I guess, running away from my problem because I went and took a contract in New South Wales because I was just like, I got to find myself, man. I'm going through some shit. And you were just so, open with me, and just I felt so safe around you to actually share that vulnerability. But then you also shared a vulnerability back with me. And that's when you told me about your alopecia. And it was something I had no idea about. I'd never come across it before. Even though I'm in the medical industry, I still had never come across it before. So thank you for sharing with that particular topic with me today. Now, let me know, what age were you when you found out about alopecia? Is this a genetic thing, or can anybody get this? Kind of run me through your story about your diagnosis.
Yeah, it is. It is a genetic thing for me, but there are different types of alopecia. So there are lots of different types of alopecia. Some are genetic, some aren't. The type that I have, androgenic alopecia, is male pattern balding, so that runs in families. But there are lots of different types. There's trichotillomania, where people have that overwhelming urge to pull their hair out. That's obviously more of a mental health aspect of it. There's alopecia areata, which can be caused by fungal infections or hormone imbalances, mineral deficiencies, things like that. So there's lots of different types. And even when people lose their hair when they're having chemotherapy, that's a type of alopecia. So alopecia just means kind of hair falling out. So there are lots of different types. My type is the incurable genetic type, which is due to excessive testosterone, and it basically is male pattern balding, but in women it presents a little bit differently. So men tend to have a receding hairline, whereas women just tend to get a diffuse all over thinning starting at the crown. They never tend to lose all of their hair usually with this type of alopecia. It just kind of thins and thins to the point where it's just really noticeable.
Right. And so were you aware from a young age that this was something that might happen to you, or did it just make sense because of the genetic factor when you did start noticing symptoms that you were like, oh?
Well, it's usually a diagnosis through elimination. If you go to a really good doctor who does all of the testing, it should be a diagnosis by elimination. I kind of was living in denial for a long time because I was like, no one else has been here in my family. But my dad did, when he was older. And there was like my mum's got so much hair. We always joke she loses more hair in the shower every day than I have on my whole head. But so I was like, no way, this can't be genetic. But it is a process of elimination. And so I went to see a dermatologist and they did all the testing for other causes behind it. So severe mineral deficiencies, B12, iron, all that kind of stuff, testing for lupus, doing skin biopsies, scalp biopsies, hair, follicle testing, all of that kind of stuff. And in the absence of anything else being present, then it is, with that in combination with a family history, is your diagnosis of androgenic alopecia.
Right. So you presented first to a GP and had a chat, and they did like basic blood tests and whatnot. But then you got referred to a dermatologist. And is that who actually kind of goes through all that with you and actually gives you a diagnosis?
Yeah, yeah. So my GP had no idea. He was just like, didn't do the bloods or anything. He was just like, no idea. I'll refer you to a dermatologist. And I saw them when I was 17, and they basically looked over all my skin. So I had like a top to toe check. They looked at my skin under like a little magnifying glass and, all sorts of fancy things. And then, yeah, skin biopsy, scalp biopsy, hair testing, blood testing. And yeah, in the absence of anything else coming up, I got the diagnosis of androgenic alopecia.
Right. Okay. So 17, you got the diagnosis. So obviously through your teen years, you started to notice difference. You were in denial. You were just like, nope. But then you finally got the diagnosis at 17. Now that, I mean, a sucky age for sure. You're about to enter kind of your adulthood. You're finishing high school. How were your emotions with kind of, I guess, getting that diagnosis that there is no cure, that you were just going to have this for the rest of your life?
Yeah, it's pretty awful. And I think denial, being one of the stages of grief, that was the stage I stuck around in for a very long time. And yeah, so there's treatment options, but there's no cure. So the treatment options are, like minoxidil or Rogaine. There's medication called finasteride, spironolactone, all these medications that they don't love to put young women on because some of them can put you at risk of complications if you were to have a baby. So, because it's an excess of testosterone, things like finasteride aren't recommended if you are of childbearing age because it blocks testosterone. So if you were to get pregnant, you would block testosterone of a male baby and they could be born with ambiguous genitalia or like having issues with their sex hormones. So that obviously wasn't an option. The only real option I was presented with was minoxidil or Rogaine. And that at the time was just like a foam or like a lotion that you put on your head every night, and there was very limited information about whether it actually worked for women. It was really well documented to work well for men, but not so much for women. And it's, having to put that on your head every night. It was very expensive. So initially I was like, great, I'll do this. Took the prescription to the pharmacist and they were like, cool, that will be $300, please. And I was like, I don't have $300. I'm 17. Like, this is ridiculous.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, all my hope just kind of went out the window then, and I just went home and lay in bed and cried for like a whole weekend.
So $300, and how long would that prescription last you?
I think it was 3 months.
Still, that is a shitload of money to be spending per year on a foam, which, obviously more so works for men versus women. So that is a lot of money. I guess what was your next step then? If you were kind of like, because you went from high school straight into university, you are a midwife, a very passionate midwife. I tell you that, everybody that's listening. And $300 for any student, any even adult, even me as an adult trying to pay $300 for a script, I'd be like, holy shit, like, no way. That's a lot. So I guess what was your next step with navigating this? Did you just kind of keep putting it in denial and just carry on with your life? And then when did it start getting a little bit worse?
Yeah, I found basically I found hair fibers, which are basically like a colored powder that you put in your hair that are like little pieces of kind of cotton, and they cling to your hair and they give the appearance of a fuller scalp. And they are just a literally a concealer. They don't like fix anything. They don't, they don't cure anything. They're there to conceal the hair loss. And I started using them when I was about 21. Between 17 and 21, my hair loss wasn't that noticeable, but it was noticeable enough for me. So during that time, I just tried a whole lot of alternative therapies. My family's a little bit woo woo, so my nana's a naturopath, my papa's a homeopath. So I tried all the different alternative things I could try. Tried naturopathic medicine, homeopathic medicine. I tried acupuncture. I even did like past life regression. They told me I'd been like burnt when in the past life, and that's why my hair had all fallen out because my head had been burnt. I tried literally everything I could think of. And then it just kept getting worse and worse. So then I started using the fibers at 21, and they were like my go-to. I used them all the way until I was 31, which is when I started wearing hair.
Yeah. I remember that story when you told me about how they said that you were burnt. I was just like, I remember cracking up when you told me that story when we were talking about it. That always makes me giggle, that one. Totally forgot about that. So those little fibers that you're talking about, it like paints your scalp as well. Is that right? Or it only sits on your hair follicles. It doesn't actually color your scalp.
It depends on the type that you get. Some of them are better quality than others. So there's lots of different hair concealing kind of products on the market. Some of them are spray, some of them are powders. The really good ones just kind of cling to your hair fibers. Some of them basically paint your scalp. I tried all of them. I have gone through so many pillowcases. Like I've woken up in the morning with like big brown marks on my pillowcases, which is really hard when you're dating, right? And you're trying to conceal hair loss from people, and you wake up in the morning and there's a brown spot on the pillowcase, and you're like, what am I going to tell these people? Like, what am I going to tell this person that I wake up with? Do I just like hide it? Do I, like just
Do I flip
yeah,
it? Like
yeah.
oh.
So it's stressful.
Yeah, it sounds stressful because I remember you talking about kind of like the stuff that, yeah, kind of like paints your scalp as well as the fibers. Because I remember we were talking about this, you know, I know so much about it because of you. You've educated me so much on it. Now, you're such a travel bug as well. Talk me through about how you navigated traveling while, dealing with this as well. Because, I mean, it's a scary thing when you were backpacking around, where was it? It was in Argentina.
Yeah, Central and South America. Yeah, so I backpacked around Central and South America for 5 months with an 18-kilo backpack, and about 8 kilos of that was my hair stuff. Yeah. So yeah, and it was challenging.
It would have been challenging. Can you swim and everything with these products in your hair? I'm guessing not.
I mean, kind of. They start kind of, coming off in water, but they often don't like come off properly until you actually scrub your hair with like shampoo or whatever. So like just getting wet, usually they stay a little bit. But yeah, they kind of tend to go a bit clumpy, so then it does start to look a bit noticeable. And especially when your hair's thin, when it gets wet, it clings to your head. So a lot of the concealing was the volumizing and blow drying to make the hair look fuller, and then putting the products in. So then when your hair is like wet, the products are starting to go clumpy, your hair's like sticking to your head, and I just felt like Gollum a lot of the time.
Oh, no. You poor thing, honestly. So I guess you do your routine, you have a shower, you wash your hair, and then you've got quite an intense regime that you have to do like once a week to ensure that, you feel confident in yourself as well. Like, people listening to this, you don't have to do this stuff, but obviously, like as a woman, like you want to feel good about yourself, confidence is very powerful. And, you are a very confident woman. When I first met you, you're very confident. And I think, you've definitely overcome a lot of, you know, emotions and a wave of like this whole ride of alopecia. I think you've really come out of it so positively the way you speak about it. Now, let's go into the dating scene. You were mentioning as a pillow story that is hard to handle. How do you go with talking about it with a date? Do you tell them straight away? Do you kind of like, how do you navigate sleepovers? Tell me everything.
I think that was something that I struggled with for a really long time, especially before I was wearing hair. It was, I'd take these, fibers, and I'd hide them somewhere in the bathroom. So like in the middle of the night, if we'd been, if I'd slept on a certain spot and then it had rubbed off, I could go to the bathroom and put more fibers in. And it was just so like I had tried to hide it for so long, it was just became really exhausting. And so that was one of the things that when I decided that I was going to start wearing hair, I decided that I was just going to be really open and honest about it. It all kind of happened around the time that I moved back to New Zealand after travel nursing for 6 years. And I was like, I'm moving to a new city. I am coming home because I want to settle down and I want to meet someone and I want to have a family. And so I'm just going to be like unapologetically myself and be really open about alopecia. And if I tell people really early on, then I don't have all of that invested interest in their response. So there's not a lot of weight behind it because I don't know them enough to really care what they think about me yet. So when I came home last year, I decided that I was going to start like really intentionally dating and that I was going to tell every person either on the first or the second day that I had alopecia and that I wore hair. And if I didn't feel like they were a safe enough person or created a safe enough space for me to tell them on the first or second date, then I wasn't going to see them again.
Yeah, I really agree with that. And you have been on such a big journey, like some from when I've seen you in Australia to going back to New Zealand, like, you've created your TikTok. Like tell me about your TikTok as well, because you have created such an incredible platform and connected with so many people who have alopecia. So because you went on this journey of like finally deciding to go for a topper wig. And I remember last time we spoke about this ages ago, a topper wig was something that, you knew was going to happen eventually, but it was quite a scary thing to go through. And you were really frightened about going to that step. But you went through that step. Talk me through the process of going through that step and how you started your TikTok and everything like that.
Yeah, so I kind of already had the TikTok in the background because I was doing some like travel nurse content on there as well because there wasn't a lot of travel nurse content at the time. So I just had that for that reason. And then when I decided that I was going to go down the topper route, I thought, you know what, I'm just going to document my journey. And, because even just being starting to be a bit more open about my alopecia with my hair fibers and things, I'd had people reach out to me and ask me for product recommendations or tell me their stories. And so I thought, you know what, people actually, there's people suffering with this. There's like 50% of women suffer from hair loss at some point in their lives. So there are people out there that want this information. So yeah, so I thought, I'm just going to go and document the whole process. And I made two videos. One where I went into the salon and got fitted for my first topper and the whole process of that. And the second one the next day when I went in and picked it up because it was like a 2-day process. I went in, tried them all on, decided the one that I liked, and then they cut and colored my hair. They cut and colored the piece. And then the next day I went back and picked it up when it was all like good to go. So I made those two videos and I remember just being like, this is my way of making myself accountable and putting myself out there. And all it was just to start that process of me being really like unapologetically myself in that journey, not thinking anything was going to come of it. And then I woke up the next day to all these messages from like news companies overseas, and I was like, well, what have I done? And I went on, and the video had like 3 million views or something. And I was like, this is wild.
I remember because I remember seeing the video and I was like, yeah, girl. And then I was like, holy shit, there's millions of views on this. Like, that is wild. But you were just so authentically yourself, and people really value when somebody talks openly about something that's a vulnerable topic, which is the whole purpose of this podcast as well. It's a space where we can talk about these vulnerable topics where people can listen and be like, fuck yeah, it's not just me. Like, other people are going through this. So that's why your TikTok blew up. And you did TikToks about dating, and like, you did TikToks about how to overcome so many things with alopecia, and it's such an educational platform, but it also brings out your personality too, and your personality is fucking amazing. So everyone go onto the TikTok as well after this episode. What is your TikTok account?
Oh my God, I can't even remember. I've changed it so many times. I had it as a I've changed the name so many times because I've had it as a travel page and then as a alopecia page. So at the moment it is called Alopecia with Nikita.
Perfect. Like, it's honestly, you've done so well just to kind of spread awareness about this. So a topper wig, just for people that don't understand, because you get a full wig, which is like your entire head, but then you've got a topper wig, which is just focused what on the top, like above the ear. Where does it sit?
So a hair topper is, yeah, it's you wear it over the top of your hair, and there are different sizes. So my piece is like 8 by 8, which basically just covers kind of like the crown of my head. You can get smaller ones for people that have only got really beginning stages of hair loss. You can get like a 3 by 5, like all sorts of little kind of tiny little toppers that can go just on thinning, like widening part areas, or you can get full pieces that are like 10 by 10 inches, and they're basically like half a wig kind of thing. So they just clip into your existing hair. Yeah, so you don't have to, like when I first started losing my hair, I thought, okay, well, I'm just gonna have to wait till all my hair falls out and then get a wig. Didn't realize there was like an interim option. So now when I take my topper off, I still have hair. So I don't have to look at myself in the mirror as a bald person that I don't recognize. I still look at myself in the mirror as the person I recognize, but I just add a bit of extra hair on, like extensions that come from the top of your head.
Yeah. Now you have gotten very creative with all your different hair pieces. Talk me through, I guess, navigating the traveling part of it, because you have a very funny story that I want you to share that happened at the airport. And I'm hoping this jogs your memory because it is actually the funniest fucking story ever.
Yeah, so so when I first got my very first hair topper, there's a whole bunch of accessories that go along with it. So to help it keep its shape, it's often kept on a mannequin head. And so then obviously you travel with those things. So I have like a little plastic mannequin head, like the hairdressers use, that I travel with, and then my hair toppers. And so I kind of set up shop wherever I go. And the very first time I bought this piece, I then had to travel on to my next contract, and I was like, really nervous about going through airport security. One, because I was like, okay, they're going to pick up their clips in my hair. They're going to ask me to take my hair off, which I don't want to do. And then two, I was like, I have a head in my bag. So I was like, how is this going to work? So I thought, you know what, I'll put it in my carry-on luggage. Then at least if they ask me about it, that I'm right here to answer any questions. And so I was standing there, I'd just been through the body scanner. They hadn't pulled me up for the clips in my hair. And then I see my bag coming through, and on the screen, I can just see this like side profile of a face and this like very distinctive head coming through. And the person's just sitting there, doesn't even like blink, doesn't even batter an eye. And I was just like, are you serious? Can you see that right now? I have a head in my bag. Like I'm full on Jeffrey Dahmering this place, and you don't even care.
I guess it just goes to show that like it's not something that is like uncommon, you know? Like obviously they would have reacted if it was something like strange, but there would be a lot of people out there that have heads in their bag. Not real heads, obviously, but mannequin heads. But that I wish it was allowed that you could record that footage of it going through, but obviously you can't at the airport. But that would have been absolutely gold.
It happens all the time too, because obviously I've been through a lot of airports now, and just even coming home from Australia last week, I had, you know, they're obviously looking for explosives. They're looking for you bringing back produce and things like that you're not allowed to bring that through the country. So I had my bag come through just last week, and I had a like a massage ball in there as well, and my head, and the whole thing comes through, and she goes, "Oh, have you got a massage ball in there, or is that like an apple or an orange or a piece of fruit?" I was like, no, it's just a massage ball. She's like, okay, cool. Didn't even care about the head, just wanted to know about the massage ball.
So she pulls you up and you're like waiting for her to bring up the head, and you're just like, nope, just the massage ball. That's all you care about.
Yep. Just the ball from the physio, to help with my plantar fasciitis. No worries, like all good.
Love how that's what I get you pulled up for, but like not the head in the bag. That's so great. So I wanted to touch on as well, because I guess it's something that I think about with people when they tell me that they've got alopecia. Eyebrows, eyelashes, does it depend on what type of alopecia that you've got, or does it also affect hair in those regions as well?
It depends on the type of alopecia that you've got. So usually alopecia universalis affects hair on the body and on the face as well. So people with alopecia universalis usually don't have body hair. They don't have eyebrows, eyelashes. People with other types of alopecia, like the androgenic alopecia that I have, we still have hair. I mean, it would be great if we didn't have to, shave our legs, but we still have hair everywhere else, unfortunately.
What a shame, hey?
Yeah.
Honestly.
Not even a silver lining.
All right, everybody, I'm just interrupting the episode to play Two Truths and a Lie. Now, this is so that we can dive in and learn a little bit more about Nikita. Now, Nikita, I want you to share with me your two truths and a lie, and I need to guess what the lie is. Now, this is going to be hard because I know you very well, but you have spent some time this week organizing and trying to trick me. So let's see what your two truths and a lie are.
Let's see how well I've done. Okay, so number one. When I was born, my mum wanted to name me Zakaria, and my dad hated that name. So when my mum was sleeping, he filled out the birth certificate and named me Nikita without my mum
Ooh.
knowing. That's number one.
Okay. Wow.
Number two. Number two, when I left high school, I wanted to go to medical school. So I did a health studies degree, and then I tried to get into medical school. And when I didn't get into medical school, that's when I decided to do midwifery.
Okay.
Number three is the very first time I got COVID, I was on a travel contract and I got COVID from a guy I'd been on a Tinder date with. So the very first time I got COVID, I had to isolate with this guy that I'd met from Tinder that I'd only known for 2 dates, and we had to isolate together for a week.
I feel like that one's true. I feel like I know that story, unless I'm thinking about someone else, but I feel like that one's the true one. Okay, I'm going with that one as the true one. Okay. Wow, that's really like, whoa. If your dad did that, I don't know how that would have went down with your mama. Oh, and then doctor. I don't think I've ever heard you really tell me that you wanted to be a doctor. I've only ever heard your passion when it came to midwifery and, and women in particular and dealing with birth and, antenatal care and all that stuff. I feel like the lie is medical school.
You know me too well.
Oh my God. So that means that your dad actually did that on your birth certificate.
Yes, he hated the name, and at the time he was obsessed with that song Nikita by Elton John, so he named me Nikita.
And how did your mum react when she found out?
She liked the name, but she was annoyed because obviously I was the first child and she had just been through labor for hours and hours and hours, and she really wanted to name me Zakaria, and Dad hated the name. And yeah, so she was annoyed, but she liked the name at least. So there was a small win there.
My God, risky move for your dad. That could have ended up in some divorce, but thank God your mum was chill about this and still like Nikita. And you suit Nikita. I cannot imagine you as Zaka.
Yeah, yeah, I know. I'm pretty sure it's like I'm pretty sure it's like Zachariah, which is a boy's name, and Mum just pronounced it wrong because she read it in a book somewhere. So I'm like, I'm pretty sure Dad saved me from having like a name that was intentionally a male name. I mean, not that matters nowadays because names are very gender non-specific, but yeah, I think I suit Nikita more.
I am so proud that I got that one right. And do you know why though? It's because you are, and this is what we were just like discussing this in the pre-chat before we started recording, is that you are such a goal digger. Like if you have a goal that you want to smash, you go for it. And I think that's why we work so well together with our friendship, is because we're both very goal-driven people. And if we say we're going to do something, like we fucking do it. And if you wanted to be a doctor, you would be a doctor. Like nothing would fucking stop you. If you failed one exam, you would have repeated it and repeated it and repeated it until you became a doctor. So that is why I know for a fact that one was a lie, because I know your personality and I know that you are a fucking goal digger is what I like to call it.
I'm so glad that you know me that well. I really tried hard to get one that you wouldn't pick, but I just don't think it's possible.
Not possible. All right, everybody. I hope you enjoyed the little two truths and a lie segment. I'm going to get back into the episode now. Enjoy. Was there any support groups or anything that, you kind of came across with your diagnosis and journey? Because you've never really mentioned to me about talking with any other person that has alopecia. Like you've kind of created the platform yourself. Is that because there isn't really any support kind of platforms out there? Let me know about all that stuff.
Yeah, there wasn't at the time. This is going back 15 years. I honestly couldn't find anything online. It was the only stuff I could find online was the hair plugs and the hair systems for older people. It was very much The face of alopecia was the middle-aged man, and now there is a lot more out there, but that's really only been the last few years. So I've been looking for support and looking for solutions, I guess, for the last 14, 15 years. And only in the last 2 or 3 years have I really started seeing a younger presence on social media and online just around alopecia. So now there is heaps out there. There is a lot of support for people out there with alopecia, and there's a lot more of a younger vibe, even in the hair loss community where you go and find these toppers and wigs. A lot of the companies now are owned by younger people or have younger people in that space, which is really awesome to see, because a lot of it in the beginning was, come here and buy this wig, and you end up looking like someone from like a bad 70s movie. And I think that's probably what put me off getting hair for so long.
Yep. I couldn't agree more. I think now, like, obviously social media has like a bad rep at times, but there's also a really positive space for it because a lot of people are able to express vulnerabilities like this and spread messages and kind of, you don't feel like you're alone. I'm seeing so much stuff. There's this chick in America called the Toupee Queen, and her content is epic. And she helps men that are dealing with, it's mainly men from what I can see from her page, dealing with hair loss. And she applies these toupees and they literally look fucking hot at the end of their session.
Yeah, I know. I've seen her videos. I'm like, whoo, I know, so good. I love it.
Because you're kind of watching it, you're like, oh yeah, like an average, average guy going in. Yeah, he's got some balding issues, but then he walks out and you're just like, holy shit, that guy's fucking hot.
10 out of 10,
It, it,
100% we're bang.
yeah,
Yeah.
honestly, every guy on that thing I would 100% sleep with. Like, it's just so powerful. Hair is so powerful, and to be able to, if you're dealing with something like this, obviously it's going to rock your confidence, but being able to do such simple steps like toupees or topper wigs or things like that really helps build your confidence. And you are now in this place where you're back in New Zealand, you decided to do these topper wigs, express your vulnerability and just be unapologetically yourself. And now you're in this absolutely beautiful relationship with a beautiful man. You've got this really incredible future together that you've planned, and you're just in such a positive, happy space. And I am so, I love that I've seen the whole journey as well, because we met like, oh my God, 7 years ago, 7 years ago, I think.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's been a lovely journey to watch. And I love that you've, expressed that vulnerability to me from our first meeting, 2 bottles of wine deep together, just talking shit and just telling each other's, highs and lows of life. And now here today, you're on Oh Really podcast sharing this. So thank you so much for helping spread this message.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been awesome.
And honestly, guys, go on to Nikita's TikTok. I will put it in the show notes as well if you just want to go on and click on it. She honestly has created some really fun content. And as I said, she really expresses her personality, and she's got a really good educational aspect to it as well. And trust me, you'll leave that page feeling super fired up and ready to smash any goal. So thank you for coming on Oh Really podcast, Nikita. Fucking loved having a chat with you. And I just am grateful to have you in my life, girlfriend.
Me too. I'm so thankful that I met you in the middle of nowhere in New South Wales all those years ago. It really was the start of something beautiful.
It really was. So everyone, make sure to give us a 5-star review, share the podcast, and honestly, you can reach out to me anytime if you want to have a chat. See you later, everybody, and see you for the next episode. Bye.
Bye.